Hey everybody, thanks for watching A Guy Doing Stuff. I'm Adam, and today I'm going to be attaching the sides that I just bent for an acoustic guitar. In my last video, I unsuccessfully tried to bend one of my sides. It cracked, so I had to reorder a new set of sides, and I did get those successfully bent, so here they are. I think what I did with these ones that helped was that I didn't clamp the middle cowl all the way tight before I started working the sides down. I left a little bit of give on the middle cowl, then I got the sides down close, and then I tightened everything up onto the jig after that. So, now I know. There are two blocks you're going to make, and you're going to be gluing the sides to the blocks where they meet each other at the upper bout and at the lower bout. The end block is the block for the lower bout. That's the more simple of the two. I'm just going to be using a solid piece of mahogany for that. The grain on the sides is going to be running in this direction, so I'm going to glue this on like this so its grain matches the side grain. It's also important that this block is quarter sawn. I checked my plans for the dimensions of the end block, and it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, 4 inches tall, and 3 inches wide. I cut it to size, then sand rounded edges on the top of it just to make it look nice. Then I sand all the surfaces to 120 grit. Instead of cutting it to the exact height of the body, I make it about an 1/8 inch taller, and I'll take it down to the exact size after it's attached to the sides in my next video. Now I have the shape, but the lower bout isn't flat. It's got this slight curve to it. So to match that, I use adhesive spray to glue sandpaper on the jig like this. I rub the bottom of the block on it like this until it matches the curve exactly. I start with 120 grit, then go to 220 grit. I'm going to try to get all the surfaces that I'll be gluing to 220 grit because a finely sanded surface supposedly makes for a better glue joint. Okay, so I'm done with the end block. Now I'm going to make the heel block. The heel block's a little more complicated because it's also used as a structural joint for the neck of the guitar. Most guitars have a mortise and tenon for the neck body joint. I'm just going to be doing a butt joint with 2 insert bolts going through the block. I will make some videos showing how I do that later, but for now I'm just going to show you guys how I make the actual block. Instead of using a solid piece of mahogany, I'm going to glue 3 pieces together. This creates a stronger block that's less prone to cracking, which is important because I'm going to have 2 bolts going through it and into the neck, so I want something that's going to have a lot of strength. The dimensions for the heel block are 2 3/4 by 1 1/4 by 3 1/4, so I cut these 4 pieces to glue a slightly oversized block together that I can take down to those dimensions. So the final heel block is 4 pieces stacked up with the grain going the same direction as the sides. I use the same process as I did for the end block to get the face to match the shape of the curve. I know that there's a lot that goes into these blocks, so I'm hoping that that explanation made sense for everybody. Now that they're done, I can start getting the sides ready. I place the side back on the bending jig and mark where to cut the ends. Then I very carefully cut them with a pull saw. It's okay here to be a little bit under the exact measurement. After I cut them, I should be able to fit them into this jig and clamp them tight with the spreaders. It's okay if there's a small gap where they meet, we'll fix that later. I spend a lot of time making sure they're perfectly centered in this jig, and then I mark the edges once it's centered so I have a reference point for the future. Okay, I'm happy with how they're lined up now. I also taped some wax paper in between the sides and the jig so I don't accidentally glue them together. I'm going to go ahead now and do a dry run with the heel block. This is a really important joint, so I want to make sure I get it set up as perfect as possible. You can see here I match the center of the block to the seam in the jig, and I center the block in the middle this way too. I put 1 bar clamp in the middle and then a C-clamp at every corner. Once I have it clamped where I want it, I put double-sided tape on these little pieces of wood and butt them up against the block. I do this so when I come back to realign it with the glue, it'll be easy to place in the exact right spot and it won't slip around as I try to clamp it down. I think I'm ready to go. I'm going to film the actual glue up and speed it up so you guys can see the whole thing and I can focus on what I'm doing. Alright, I think that went okay. I'm gonna go ahead and let it sit for at least a couple hours, and then I'll do pretty much the same exact thing for the tail block. Okay, done. The sides are attached now, but they're gonna be really flimsy at this point. In my next video, I'm gonna show how I add some structural support and how I put the radius on it. Thank you to WorkSharp Tools for sponsoring this series. If you guys haven't ordered one of their sharpeners yet, I have a link in my video description that you can click on to get yours. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section.